Every Friday, my Christys Tonight show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Christys here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Christys Tonight.
The car stopped at the scene and a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area was arrested.
Why don't the police reveal the ethnicity and nationality of every single criminal arrested? And... Sadiq Khan wants to decriminalise cannabis. What's he been smoking? Plus... Well, it looks like Elon Musk and President Trump have fallen out big time, and...
The Prime Minister has no connection with working people, no connection with what we used to call working class communities.
My dad was a tool maker. My dad worked in a factory. He was a tool maker.
I don't think Sir Keir Starmer is really working class. Also...
Every chief executive of every council and every government department, white. Every director of a department in Scotland, white.
Are white men the most disadvantaged people in Britain? And...
I don't want my son to get cold, you fat cow!
Yeah, I forgot what she said there at the end. Is 72 too old to have a baby? Is it actually child abuse? And what would you do in this situation? I'll reveal all about what's really going on there. I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages tonight with my panel, and we've got the director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. And can you tell me what's going on here? Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Does Labour really think Britain needs more cannabis? Next.
Very good evening to you from the newsroom. The top story tonight at 9. Sir Keir Starmer has visited Liverpool to meet police after a car drove into crowds celebrating the city's football victory. 7 people are still in hospital and police say they have now identified 79 who were injured in Monday's incident. A 53-year-old man remains in custody on suspicion of attempted murder, dangerous driving and drug driving. Sir Keir Starmer said it was vital that he saw the investigation for himself. Influencers Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate have been charged with over 20 offences in the UK, including rape, human trafficking and controlling prostitution. According to reports in The Telegraph today, Andrew faces 10 charges against 3 women. His brother Tristan facing 11 linked to one of the same alleged victims. A European arrest warrant has been issued, but the pair must first face separate criminal proceedings in Romania. The CPS warns the public not to share anything online that could prejudice the trial. The brothers deny all charges in both countries. Russia says it is ready to put a peace deal on the table, offering Ukraine a settlement during talks in Istanbul on the 2nd of June. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has claimed the document will lay out Moscow's full position on ending the war and tackling its so-called root causes. The Russian delegation will present that plan and offer clarifications in those direct talks, which would be the second round of resumed face-to-face negotiations between the two countries if it goes ahead. And here, top police and security chiefs, including the head of the Met Police and an MI5 boss, got there in the end, have warned that the early prisoner release plans from the government could put public safety at risk. In a leaked letter, they say repeat offenders may dodge jail and fear cuts to short sentences would damage confidence in policing. The government insists most concerns were addressed in its final sentencing reforms and that serious offenders like terrorists won't get early release. But Sir Mark Rowley says the new system could pile extra pressure on police with no analysis of the impact. And Sir Mark Rowley, the Met Police Commissioner, has also pushed back today against Sadiq Khan's call to decriminalise cannabis. He says he won't support the move, despite the Mayor claiming current drug laws cannot be justified. A new report from the London Drugs Commission says the UK's stance is outdated and too harsh. Mr Khan says the evidence, though, makes a compelling case for change and wants the government to act. Those are the latest headlines for now. A full roundup with my teeth back in around an hour's time.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
London Mayor Sadiq Khan wants to decriminalise cannabis because stop and search is damaging police relations with ethnic minorities. What's he been smoking? Let's deal with the racism bit first, shall we? Facts aren't racist. In 2020, the then head of the Met Police said that black people in the UK were unfortunately 8 times more likely to commit violent crime. The figures from London in 2022 show that black people were charged with 64% of gun offences, 59% of homicides, 53% of robberies and 47% of knife offences. Now, maybe there's a reason why some ethnic minorities in London are 2.2 times as likely to be arrested than white people, and that reason isn't racism. Do you remember the case of the Rolex Rippers, a violent gang nicking watches from people? Well, there they are. Now, look, hey, I don't think it would be racist to stop and search them. But I tell you what, I reckon there's a fair chance that those lads have enjoyed the odd cannabis joint in their time, don't you? Now, I have a lot of viewers and listeners who are black or are of ethnic minority background. And I want you to know that I'm absolutely not saying that I think black people and ethnic minorities are dope-smoking criminals. What I am saying is that I think that Sadiq Khan saying we should decriminalise cannabis to stop racist police is complete and utter rubbish, OK? Now, I'll tell you what I think he's doing. Firstly, he wants young people who smoke cannabis to vote Labour. I think it's votes for the Mandem, isn't it? Secondly, he wants cannabis possession off his crime stats. Thirdly, police are already not doing that much about it. Pretty much everywhere in the UK, it smells like Bob Marley's recording studio. Now, I tell you what Britain needs: more lunatics. We need more drug addicts on public transport. Oh, yeah, more of that, please, more of that. We can't stop knife crime, gun crime, rapes. You know that there's one rape reported every hour in London? Let's legalise cannabis, though, while we're at it, hey? If you're a hard-working, law-abiding taxpayer, Labour are making your life worse. If you're a dope smoker, you want to make your life a bit easier, don't they? Which will also make life easier for knife carriers, because they're not going to be stopped and searched as much. Welcome to modern Britain. The police are too busy kicking down people's doors for mean tweets to bother about rampant drug use anyway. Now, I can bring you a GB News exclusive that reveal police forces' priorities. You ready? Police forces are spending more than £10 million on diversity posts, enough to hire roughly 354 bobbies on the beat. West Yorkshire and Thames Valley are the biggest spenders on diversity, equity and inclusion, both surpassing £1 million. And 2 posts in Kent and Thames Valley are raking in wages of more than £100,000 a year. A total of £9.37 million is being spent on wages, another 11 grand when you round it up on courses, amounting, of course, to that total of 10.2 million. Look, I think people are kind of OK and, in fact, want this from police. Instead, we get this. Do people like Sadiq Khan really want to turn Britain into a stinking, lazy, paranoid, schizophrenic, cannabis-infused hellhole policed by officers wearing pink feather boas and pronoun badges? Let's get those to my panel. We've got the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've got businessman and activist Adam Brooks and broadcaster and columnist Nina Mishkov. Thank you very much for joining us. Mark, I'll start with you on this. Legalising cannabis, I'm not necessarily focus too much on that. It's more about the general state of Britain, isn't it, under Sadiq Khan and
Yes, I mean, I think on the narrow point of legalising cannabis, I understand what Sadiq Khan said is you shouldn't face a charge for possession of a small amount. In fact, 72% of people already caught with a small amount don't face a charge anyway, so I don't think this would shift the parameters of drug use.
It's the idea of it disproportionately affecting ethnic minorities.
No, that's exactly the point. The idea that you would change your drugs policy because ethnic minorities, that's absolutely ludicrous. You should not set the criminal law or the sanction in order to protect or safeguard any particular named community. The law and justice needs to be blind. So I hate his rationale. More generally, though, I want the police freed up from not having to waste their time on relative trivia, and I would include in that prancing around with feather boas, right? And focusing on burglaries and stabbings and the rest of it, not diversity and inclusion, not doing the YMCA dance, and probably not wasting too much time if you've caught someone with a small amount of cannabis in their back pocket.
Yeah, I mean, look, I feel as though, and this isn't just a London story, by the way, because whatever happens in London tends to come to the rest of Britain, and ultimately it is a national story. But Adam, it feels just increasingly lawless here. The idea that we will be relaxing a drug law sounds mad.
Look, it sends a message that it's OK. That's in my opinion. It opens the floodgates to more people using it. So we've seen in many US cities and Canadian cities, once they've decriminalised cannabis, other problems arise, such as increased crime like burglary and other things. So I think even in New York, they see a rise in synthetic drugs hit the streets, which caused a lot of violence as well. So it's the message that it sends for me, and that is, it is becoming lawless. If this happens, what else rises in the capital?
Nina, is stop and search racist?
If you look at the figures, it would appear to be, because black people are 9 times more likely to be stopped and searched. And if you look at the population of our prisons, that's not equated in that way. And the thing about stopping and searching for cannabis is that cannabis is equally used by all races. You can't just say it's black people. You can't just say, OK, fine, there's a Caribbean, there's Jamaican heritage to this, but the statistics do not show that. And so this is completely disproportionate. I completely understand that. And what I worry about synthetic. I worry about, a lot of these laws are being more discussed by people who think back to their old university days when it was all kind of peace, love and very, easy and happy, smiley people. Whereas I'm not a druggy person at all, but I understand that skunk, for instance, nowadays is absolutely, lethal practice.
Well, absolutely, and I firmly am of the view that it is a gateway drug and all of that stuff, personally. But So, on that point then, do you think that the stop and search is racist? You know, do the facts show that?
No, I don't believe it is. And you said in your intro, Patrick, that facts cannot be racist. But it would be wise, wouldn't it, to use stop and search amongst cohorts that are more likely to commit crime. I haven't seen the breakdown of men versus women, for example, but men commit many more crimes than women. I think it would be ludicrous for men to say, we insist that 50% of the people stopped and searched must be women, because women have a much, much lower propensity to commit crime. So, generally speaking, you'd expect particular cohorts around gender, around age, around ethnicity, around geographical area to be more likely to be stopped and searched, because the raw facts say that they are more likely to be involved in some sort of criminal activity.
But the thing
Far better to do that than to have some preposterous idea that for every man that you stop in his 20s, you've got to stop a woman in her 80s.
No, I understand what you're saying, but the point being, even just hearsay, you can pick any black person at a bus stop on the tube and say, have you been stopped and searched? And they will have been stopped.
It's more likely for men as well.
I mean, I've been
of course
stopped
for men.
and searched
But
twice.
Yeah, well, people...
It's not just an ethnic minority thing. I've been stopped and searched twice. I never
Patrick,
found it.
we're not saying every black person is a criminal. That would be a ridiculous statement and very racist. But what we're saying is certain crimes in London... I work with knife crime communities and many figures from the black community that want me to say this. Black men are more likely to commit knife crime. I think you said there it was 46%. I've seen a stat that is up to 60%. So lives will be saved if more black men are searched, because we need to take these knives off the street. So facts, as you say, cannot be racist.
And you'd expect the police to target those cohorts.
Yeah.
Well, we also, one of our reporters here had something through to us earlier before we came on air, which is that in Scotland, there is a shoot-up room where heroin users are able to go
in Glasgow,
and do it safely, right? There's a primary school over the road, and every single morning they have to go through the sandpit in that primary school with metal detectors to make sure that there aren't stray needles there. And I just think, is that really where we're going with laws like this? I mean, you look also at the exclusive that we brought to you there, which was about the 10 million quid that police forces are spending on DEI. So, is that not something, if we put 345 more bobbies on the beat somewhere, where potentially we could actually clamp down on things like drug and knife offences instead of making sure that you know, people didn't feel as though there was any racism in the police?
Yeah, and I mean, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? It's basically the truth of it. That story you've just shared about the shoot-up room, you can understand what's behind this in principle, that we want to make sure that there's a safer space, that you're not sharing needles, therefore you're less at risk of disease and all the rest of it. There's a good case for trying to get people who are on drugs into rehab and into the health system rather than the justice system. But too often, the wider community impact is overlooked. You know, it shouldn't be anywhere near a school, for crying out loud. Absolute lunacy. And all of this DEI stuff, I mean, thankfully, I think it is unwinding now. At least, I mean, I'm not saying people are yet losing their jobs, but public attitudes have turned against this so strongly that people are livid that the police are not solving crimes whilst they are worried about diversity and inclusion.
Could I ask you, Nina, as a woman, there's one rape reported every hour in London, and the figures across the country for rape and convictions of rapes are absolutely devastating. That is, therefore, predominantly a problem that affects women. Right? If Sadiq Khan cared as much about women as he does about ethnic minorities feeling as though they're being disadvantaged with stop and search, wouldn't he be spending things like the DEI budget? He'd be taking that off, he'd be putting more bobbies on the beat, putting more resources in to stop what is an epidemic of rape in the capital city.
Well, the thing is, I think most rapes are perpetrated by people known to the person on a date, supposed date or something. It's not like some stranger jumps you. Very sadly, in the past, there have been terrible rapes and murders with, you know, by complete strangers. But rapes are perpetrated, and in terms of rape, we need to see what society is pushing men towards.
You don't think that's a bigger problem, though, than whether or not people who happen to be ethnic minorities feel as though they're unfairly targeted for stop and search?
No, I don't think this is done primarily because of that. And another reason why Sadiq Khan is quite keen on this is if you decriminalise drugs, then you have potentially a great source of tax revenue.
Yes.
I mean, in New York State, there's $1 billion alone. I mean, Sadiq Khan went to California in 2022 and he liked what he saw there. He said that you can raise a lot of million for good causes.
Yes, I just
a lot of money.
can't quite remember off the top of my head exactly who paid for that trip to California for our dear mayor. But anyway, what do you rate to that kind of case there, Adam? That actually, look, if we decriminalised it, bear in mind that loads of people are doing it anyway and all of this, that we could make money off it, that we could put that money into the tax.
Because the effects of that will cost us money in other areas. As I say, crime will go up. It's happened in New York. Cannabis use in Portugal rose by over 50% when they legalised it. So
yes, but but deaths from overdoses went down dramatically. They did.
Not in certain towns. They did.
I can see what you mean about the other side of it, especially if there are mental health problems that can come from it, which there are, and things like that. Just a final point on this, Mark. Is there the cynic in me would suggest that there's also a voting electoral element to this?
Yeah.
Would you go with that? What do you think that is?
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, sadly, this afflicts politicians of all stripes, really. We're in danger of having politicians who have their identified cohort of voters, key swing voters, and if you tilt your policies to favour them, it's an electoral win. As they say, if you rob Peter to pay Paul, you're guaranteed a Paul's vote, right? Yeah. So quite a lot of politics is based around that.
But let's be honest. If you are targeting cannabis users, they are the people less likely to be asked to get out of bed to vote.
Well, unless they can be legalised. Well, you might get the either vote once.
They won't be able to get out of bed. Don't be ridiculous. It's an idiotic.
No, I don't know. I mean, I was having a look at some of the reaction online to this, as you would imagine, and to be fair, it's quite mixed. It is quite mixed. The taxation point is something. Some people saying that there are already ways, look, people can get involved with alcohol. I've been very honest about things with me in the past on that. If we were reclassifying everything, would alcohol be more harmful than cannabis?
Yes.
Possibly, yes. So, look, I do see both sides of it. I think just more from the London mayor and policing angle, I would really rather that they focused on solving things like murder and knife crime. But anyway, a Home Office spokesman has said this: "We will continue to work with partners across health, policing and wider public services to drive down drug use, ensure more people receive timely treatment and support, and make our streets and communities safer. We have no intention of reclassifying cannabis from a Class B substance under the Misuse of Drugs Act." That's the government's position now. We'll see what goes on in future. Loads more coming your way. But first, of course, it is the Great British Giveaway, 67 grand's worth of motorhome for you, plus a bit of cash on top. Here's how you can win it.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of 4, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, loads more coming your way, including this.
Every chief executive of every council and every government department, white. Every director of a department in Scotland, white.
Nearly a quarter of white men believe they are being discriminated against because of their race and gender, and you'll never guess how many more are self-censoring at work for fear of causing offence and losing their job. So, are white men the most disadvantaged group in the UK? But before that, a British couple in their 70s, I can't wait to get your views on this, right? The British couple in their 70s have become the legal parents of a baby boy born via surrogacy. Is that child abuse? That's next.
newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Nigel is back.
Good evening.
Unfiltered.
Are these proposals bold enough?
Uncompromising.
Will it bring growth?
Unmissable.
We as a country are brilliant.
Nigel Farage returns this Tuesday from 7 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. So look, are white men the most disadvantaged group in Britain? Some stats would suggest yes. But first, is it child abuse to have a kid in your 70s? Time now for the head-to-head. Very keen to get your views on this. So a British couple, both aged 72, have won a legal battle to become parents to a 14-month-old baby boy who was born via surrogacy in California earlier this year. That is despite the judge highlighting the high chance that they could pass away before the child reaches adulthood, with both parents said to be aged 89 years old by the time that that baby turns 18. The couple decided to explore the option of having a surrogate baby after their son sadly died from cancer shortly before his 27th birthday. They have, though, made arrangements for another younger couple to become the baby's legal guardians if they do, in fact, pass away. But they're not alone, because in July last year, a 72-year-old man in Scotland was granted permission to become the legal father of a 3-year-old boy born to a surrogate in Oklahoma. There's numerous other instances as well. Tonight I'm asking, is this child abuse? Going head-to-head on this now, our parenting experts Kalini Kent and journalist and author Lisa McKenzie. OK, well, Kalini, I'll start with you. Is it child abuse?
Child abuse, I wouldn't say so much child abuse, but do you know what? It is so unethical. There are several considerations here, Patrick. First of all, there's the practical one. Raising a child is so physically demanding. You need to be able to be there for them physically, mentally, emotionally. But these parents are going to be so elderly by the time that child is 10. And is that ethically right? You've got their advanced age, which means that there's going to be the risk of them becoming too frail, passing away early, but also potentially leading to pressure on that child who is going to be maybe doing some of the caring for their elderly parents. And then another consideration, which I think is really important, is the fact that there's that huge generational gap. The emotional gap is going to lead to the parents maybe not understanding what it's like to live as a young child, because they will have grown up in a totally different generation. It will lead to differences in values, outdated parenting styles, communication styles will be different, and also let's just take the practical things of lack of understanding of technology today. So there are so many issues here, the ethical, the emotional, social, societal, but generally speaking, this is not right because the child is just because of the age gap.
Lisa, I'll get your take on that. It's two things here, really. So firstly, is it child abuse? The other angle, I suppose, is it selfish? Now, I feel very sorry for this couple. Apparently, their son passed away tragically at the age of 27. A horrible thing, you know, really awful. But if one of the reasons why they want to have a baby now, age 72, is to fill a void in their lives, I'm not sure that's right, is it?
Well, it's not child abuse, put it that way. It's not child abuse. And is it unorthodox? Yeah, it is, because at 72, you know, a woman can't have a baby at 72. But saying that, where I'd really disagree is there are thousands and thousands of grandparents all over Britain raising babies and children right now. I have friends, actually, who are in their 60s and have just got custody over their grandchild. So I would really say, look, there is no problem about a generation. And if we're looking at sort of outdated parenting skills, I think that's not right at all. I think some of the parenting skills of the past are actually much better than the future. But the other thing I'd like to throw in here as well is this because the mother is 72? Because 2 years ago, Al Pacino, age 83, had a baby. 2 years ago, Robert De Niro had a baby, age 80.
Well, they did get... they did. I take your point, don't get me wrong, but they did get stick for that. And I think the difference there, though, is that at least one of the parents in that situation was statistically very likely to go on to have a decades-long life in a way that... Go on, Lisa.
But the parents here, they have nominated other carers as well. And you know, I'm a great person who celebrates community and family. You know, children are raised or should be raised by a community and a family. And so if there is a community and a family around this child, and it's going to be loved and looked after, so what?
OK, well, Kalini, what would you say? I mean, should they be banned from creating a new life when they're both 72 years old?
I think banning is a strong word. I think it's not about the banning, it's about thinking about the practical considerations. There's a societal debate here as well. Had they gone for adoption, they'd have been refused. Because that child, they would have been considered to be too old to be actually able to meet the needs that child needs. And what they've done here as well in this situation is they've gone away, they've had the child through surrogacy out of the UK, they've done it in America, where there's no checks and balances and controls about what's gone on, and now they're having the child here, and it's after the event. They've then gone for the court order. I feel that it's much more a case of thinking what's in the best interest and welfare of that child.
I worry about the bullying as well. Yes. There was a lad at my school who had a very old father, and he was bullied for it. He was, wrongly, obviously, but he was bullied for it. And I just think that this particular child might end up finding themselves picked on quite badly as a result of having parents that are 72. I mean, it shouldn't happen, but I've just, you know what kids are like, don't you, really? But
and Patrick, I've come across this. I've come across this where children face stigma, social stigma, because they've got a socially much older parent, and they may feel out of place amongst their peers.
Go on, very quickly, Lisa.
Get picked. Well, children get picked on for social stigma for all sorts of different reasons. You know, like I said, if a community and a family is raising a child with love and care, I honestly don't see what the problem is here. The only issue I might have with this is the way that women's bodies can be used in surrogacy for money. I do have a problem with that.
Well, that is a very good point. It's a whole other discussion for another time. Thank you very much, both of you. Tremendous to see you. Thank you for that. Cleanly Kent there, journalist and parenting expert and journalist and author Lisa McKenzie. Take care. Right, OK, who do you agree with? Kate says, selfish, only thinking of themselves, not about the child at all. Marsha says, oh, here you go, Marsha, you're on the same wavelength as me. Kids have a tough time with bullying at school. As it is now, that will make it worse. Elizabeth says, child abuse, no. Insanity, yes. Right, OK, well, you've spoken. Anyway, coming up.
This Prime Minister has no connection with working people.
So Nigel Farage challenged the Prime Minister to a debate at a working man's pub in the Red Wall. I'm not sure that Keir Starmer is really working class. Are you, and?
Every chief executive of every council and every government department, white. Every director of a department in Scotland, white.
Well, it looks as though white men are apparently the most disadvantaged group in the UK. I'll find out if that's true next.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Whilst eastern parts of Europe are having some further heavy rain causing some issues here, it's a different story further west. A largely settled picture, a few showery bursts perhaps affecting the Canaries, but likely to avoid most of these. Also largely dry on Thursday across much of Spain and Portugal. A large chunk of Italy having a fine picture, but still some showery rain towards the east, and then a very wet story across more eastern parts, across Greece and Turkey, for example. See you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After a day of sunshine and showers, it'll eventually turn dry into this evening. Only for a time though, a return of some wet and windy weather from the west, leading us into an unsettled day tomorrow. But for the time being, a ridge of high pressure largely easing away any showers, but outbreaks of rain soon moving their way into Northern Ireland for the first part of the evening and eventually into western parts of England and Scotland, and turning quite heavy at times, particularly across western areas, and quite blustery too, particularly around exposed coasts of Scotland. But even elsewhere across England and Wales, it's going to be quite a damp and dank start to the day. But with the cloud outbreaks of rain, that does mean it's going to keep temperatures up, so it should be still quite a mild start to the day. And I'm afraid the outbreaks of rain are set to continue for much of the day as well, particularly across Scotland, where still it's going to turn heavy and still quite blustery at times through the course of the morning. Fairly similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, quite a wet start and some quite low cloud, leading to quite a misty, murky start, and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales, particularly western parts of Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall, some damp areas to start here. And it's set to continue through much of the day, still some quite heavy and blustery outbreaks, particularly across Scotland. Those central areas, parts of the southeast, any rain should eventually ease away, but it's still likely to remain quite cloudy, but it's still going to be fairly warm. Highs just about reaching the low 20s across the southeast, and it's still not going to be particularly cold either across the north, though obviously it's going to be quite a wet afternoon. Then heading into Friday, not quite as much rain, but it's still going to be damp at times. This system slowly sinking its way southward, leading us to some drizzly outbreaks and potentially turning a little bit brighter across Scotland, Northern Ireland, though still a risk of showers here. But it's going to feel quite warm, quite humid, and it's likely we'll see further outbreaks of rain, particularly on Saturday across northern areas, and still temperatures across the south in the low 20s.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News, 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we're in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, welcome back. OK, so coming up, can the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, really claim to be working class? But first, shocking new research has revealed that nearly a quarter of white men in Britain believe they are being discriminated against because of their race and gender. So, nearly half of white men say they're now self-censoring at work, terrified that saying the wrong thing could cost them their jobs. Well, I wonder what is making white men feel that way. How about the news last month that West Yorkshire Police was positively discriminating by reportedly blocking applications from white British candidates in order to boost diversity? What about Manchester United and Liverpool football clubs who've advertised coaching roles, quotes, only open to women and ethnic minority candidates? I mean, there's a catalogue of examples of this stuff. Joining me now is Reform UK councillor Jamie McIver. Jamie, thank you very much.
Good evening.
Are white men, do you think, a disadvantaged group?
I think white British working class men are the most disadvantaged in this country. I think that is evident in so many ways you look at it. But, you know, listening to your intro there, isn't it awful? How awful that you want to apply for a job, you want a career in a certain way of work, and you're unable to progress your application because of your skin colour that you were born with that you can't help. That's outrageous for anybody. But the fact that it can happen specifically to one group of people, it is extraordinary.
What do you think about the self-censoring there? Because the implication there is that there's a cohort of white blokes who think certain things but are deliberately not saying them because they're worried that they're going to be cancelled, sacked or cause offence.
Well, I think this is a part of a bigger problem, actually, of free speech in this country, quite frankly. People are too nervous to share their opinion. I mean, how many times do you have a conversation with someone and they start that conversation, I'm not racist, but I don't have an issue with women, but people are constantly cautious when they're speaking. And I believe that people are not racist. I believe, of course, there are idiots that are, and those people should feel every bit of the law when they are caught. But frankly, you know, most people in this country just have an opinion and they should be allowed to speak freely and openly without worrying about causing offence to somebody and worrying about also what people are judging people constantly and what they're saying now, over-analysing very basic comments too. I'm
going to say something now that might not go down that well, so brace yourselves for impact. Is there actually just a problem here with weak men? So weak kind of middle-class liberal guilt, where blokes feel as though, oh, I can't say that, I don't want to cause offence. Just say it and back it.
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately everyone knows who they are as a person, right? So if you know you're not a racist person, you should be able to speak however you want to when you're down a pub with your mates or playing football, whatever. And if you know you're not a racist person, then what should be the issue? Say what you want to say. I think the problem we've got here is there are some people in this country who are actually weak, who are wrapped up in cotton wool, who frankly think it should be illegal to be offended. Now, nobody is immune from being offended. Not being funny, you get on a bus and the bus driver call you, say something about your outfit. It's not illegal if it offends you. So we've got a very pathetic situation where there are some people in our country that think, yeah, I'm allowed to walk around, be totally immune from anybody saying anything that I don't like. And the worrying thing is, you mentioned the workplace. That's what concerns me the most, because at some point there is going to be somebody that makes a mistake in the workplace and there'll be a management level that was too scared to say something because they were worried they might themselves find themselves subject of a grievance or get themselves in trouble. So it's a big problem, actually. And actually, I think people need to wake up and realise that it's OK to say what you want. You can't be racist in this country, and why should you want to be? But the fact that there is a population of this country that has been now proven from research that they're basically holding back and not speaking, not providing feedback to colleagues because they're worried about being called racist or something like that, I think it's absolutely extraordinary. And it's something, as a country, we should be very embarrassed about.
Well, and examples of them just simply not being able to apply for jobs and get on in the workplace and all of that stuff. I mean, those examples are abhorrent. And if it was any other way round, then obviously that would be illegal. It is is illegal, and that would be racism. So there you go. What would you say to some people who'll be watching this now and they'll say, there you go, there's two white blokes here having a conversation about whether or not they are being victimised or discriminated against. We don't know what it's really like to be victims of racism or discrimination.
Well, of course we do, because actually when I heard what you were saying there about, you know, white people not to apply for certain jobs, I actually find that quite offensive. I mean, you know, I'm sure people are going to shoot me down for saying that, but I think that is outrageous. But I don't believe for a second. Look at football, look at arts, look at media, look at people that are so successful in this country. They are not all white.
Politics?
Politics is another fantastic example. Britain is a country, I love this country, I adore this country, and anyone in this country can succeed if they work hard. This country is a meritocracy, I do believe that, but we are seeing people, for whatever reason, these do-gooders that want to try and make things difficult for people to succeed. Those people, frankly, they need to be spoken to, and they need to remember that being British, part of being British is embracing everybody. That has to include white people too. Otherwise, we're not the country that I know.
Well, fantastic. So, Jamie, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much. All the very best there. Jamie McIver there, who's a Reform UK councillor. Well, loads more coming your way. We've got a bit of this.
The car stopped at the scene and a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area was arrested.
So, police revealed the ethnicity and nationality of the man suspected of ramming a car into crowds in Liverpool just hours after that incident. So, why won't they do that every single time now? What are they trying to hide? That's at 10 p.m. and...
This Prime Minister has no connection with working people.
I'm not sure that Sir Keir Starmer is as working class as he'd like you to believe. Oh, and just before I let you get going, of course, you can still grab your tickets to join my live Friday night studio audience show. Here's how. Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back. Loads more coming your way. Is it not time that police release the ethnicity and nationality of every single suspect? But first, Nigel Farage has thrown down the gauntlet to the Prime Minister. He's challenged him to a debate in a working man's club in the Red Wall. Now, in a speech yesterday, the Reform UK leader claimed that his party was now the party of the working class.
The Prime Minister has no connection with working people, no connection with what we used to call working class communities. His leadership, frankly, is dismal. It is uninspiring. It is disconnected from real life. It is, in my view, unpatriotic.
Well, it didn't take long for the usual suspects to start taking cheap shots at the MP for Clacton.
Is Nigel Farage of 10k a year Dulwich College, a voice of the working class? Is Nigel Farage, former metals trader, a voice of the working class? Is Nigel Farage the leader of a political party that until very recently was just an incorporated business and had none of those mechanisms of internal democracy, a voice?
So look, who appeals more to the working class? Is it Nigel Farage or is it Sir Keir Starmer? I'm joined now by the Labour leader of Basildon Council, Gavin Callaghan. Gavin, thank you very much. Great to see you on the show. Is Keir Starmer really of the working class? Didn't his dad own the factory? Wasn't his mum a nurse at a time when nurses' salaries were quite good relative to things you could buy, like a house? And he has seemed to spend the rest of his professional life trying to get away from the working class, hasn't he?
Good evening, Patrick. Well, look, I'd completely disagree with you in terms of your characterisation of his upbringing. I think it's really important to have lived experience of what it's like to have been working class, to have lived in a house where you have got people with ill health, where you have got disability in your house. And isn't it amazing that in any other Western democracy, we would look at Keir Starmer's story, a state school kid from Surrey who's managed to go all the way to the top of...
I think you lost me at Surrey, mate.
He's gone all the way
it's not Coronation Street, is it? He's not growing up on the cobbles. I mean, goodness me, you know? I mean, it's not a sob story.
I don't know if you've seen the semi-detached pebbled house that he lived in, but he's gone from all the way from being a state school kid. When I talk to working class people in Basildon here, if you said to a family where the mum's working in the local hospital or the dad's working at the tractor plant here, that in 30, 40 years' time, your kid may climb to the top of British politics and become the Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Forget the politics. They'd be incredibly proud of that. And that is exactly what's happened with our Prime Minister. But for some reason, we find ourselves in this ridiculous...
Well, can I tell you what I think the reason is? Can I tell you what I think the reason is? Is that I think that from what we know of his friend circle, Philippe Sands is one of them, the bloke who's just taken on the case for Mauritius against the Chagos Islands, who comes across as a very aloof, some would argue quite smarmy individual. You've also, of course, got Lord Hermer as well. So you look at the set of people that he's surrounded himself with in his both professional and personal life, and you think, it's not working class, is it? He's not on the market, is he?
And yet we have Angela Rayner as his Deputy Prime Minister.
Yeah, but that's not him, is it? No one's having that discussion. She's working class.
Of course it is. It's up to him to decide. No one would suggest that Johnny Banks, growing up in Sunderland, didn't grow up in a working class family. The same with Bridget Phillipson and many other members of the cabinet. So he's made those decisions. And I think, as I say, it's about lived experience. What are you actually interested in? What is he actually pursuing as Prime Minister? He's gone, for me, the number one thing I see as a leader of a council that working class people are concerned about is housing, right? We do not have enough housing. We need to build more homes. For working class people like myself and many others, the only thing we'll have to leave to our children will be our homes, right? And so being able to go after 1.5 million homes as a target to get Britain building again, that is going to have a massive impact on working class people's lives.
Well, especially if a load of asylum seekers end up living in those homes. That really is, because I tell you, a lot of working class people in places like Bury and Bradford and Blackburn have had their lives unbelievably impacted by the north of England being used disproportionately as a dumping ground for people who've recently come to Britain. I do wonder whether or not Keir Starmer is performatively using the working class. Is he using them? You said there, Angela Rayner. I mean, is she not there as the same way that Lee Anderson was used by the Tories as the red wall made flesh? Is that not what what Angela Rayner really is? Is he not deliberately gone for a cabinet constructed of people who went to state schools purely so he can say that he's done that? Is he actually in touch with working class people himself, do you think?
So let me just break a couple of those things down, right? So in terms of asylum seeker housing, it is up to every individual council to introduce their own policy, right? So it is a myth that councils cannot stop that from happening. You can. We've done it in Basildon, and you can do that across the country, right? So we need to make sure that those policies are in place, and that is up to each council to be able to do that. The second thing about that is, for me, the only person using the working class right now is Nigel Farage. So again, you could walk around Basildon for 3 days before you'd come into contact with somebody who's not British national, and then the person you come into contact with is likely going to be from the Republic of Ireland. If you listen to him, you would think that all of working class people's ills, everything that is wrong with working class people's day-to-day lives, is a result of immigration. And I'm telling you, it's not true. It's a broken housing market. The fact that people cannot afford to get on the property ladder, or they can't afford...
That is inherently linked to immigration, though, isn't it, Gavin?
No, I'd say it's inherently linked to the fact that for the last 30, 40 years, we have simply not built enough homes
to cope with the amount of people we're letting into prison.
Again, I would disagree with that strongly. When I look at the 27,000 homes that I need in my borough, I've got 10,000 20 to 34-year-olds living at home with mum and dad right now who desperately need council leaders like me to go and build those homes. And thankfully, as a working class man leading Basildon Council with a working class Prime Minister in Downing Street, we've actually now got a government that's giving us the money and the policies to go and deliver those homes. That's going to have a massive impact on working class people.
All right, Gavin, look, can I say thank you? I don't believe I've had you on the show before. I would love to have you back on. Thank you very much. It's Gavin Callaghan there. He's the Labour leader of Basildon Council. Well, I wonder what people make of that. I'm sorry, it just grates at me a little bit, this Keir Starmer dining out on the, I grew up working class, this, that and the other. Look, I don't know what you make of it, but coming up.
The car stopped at the scene and a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area was arrested.
So, they didn't do it for the Southport monster, but police did reveal the ethnicity of the man suspected of ramming a car into crowds in Liverpool just hours after the incident. So shouldn't they start maybe just doing this all the time? I mean, frankly, why aren't they? What is it they're afraid of? That's at 10 p.m. and, oh, yeah, they were the best of friends. Well, I hate to say this, but it does look as though Elon Musk has waged war with President Trump. I'm going to be dissecting all of these astonishing revelations a little bit later on. And, of course, I will have a very detailed look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Talking of the United States, it appears, and this is in the Telegraph, that the US has blocked British diplomats because of, quote, social media censorship. Stay tuned.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After a day of sunshine and showers, it'll eventually turn dry into this evening. Only for a time, though, a return of some wet and windy weather from the west, leading us into an unsettled day tomorrow. But for the time being, a ridge of high pressure largely easing away any showers, but outbreaks of rain soon moving their way into Northern Ireland for the first part of the evening and eventually into western parts of England and Scotland, and turning quite heavy at times, particularly across western areas, and quite blustery too, particularly around exposed coasts of Scotland. But even elsewhere across England and Wales, it's going to be quite a damp and dank start to the day. But with the cloud outbreaks of rain, that does mean it's going to keep temperatures up, so it should be still quite a mild start to the day. And I'm afraid the outbreaks of rain are set to continue for much of the day as well, particularly across Scotland, where still it's going to turn heavy and still quite blustery at times through the course of the morning. Fairly similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, quite a wet start and some quite low cloud, leading to quite a misty, murky start, and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales, particularly western parts of Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall, some damp areas to start here. And it's set to continue through much of the day, still some quite heavy and blustery outbreaks, particularly across Scotland. Those central areas, parts of the southeast, any rain should eventually ease away, but it's still likely to remain quite cloudy. But it's still going to be fairly warm, highs just about reaching the low 20s across the southeast, and it's still not going to be particularly cold either across the north, though obviously it's going to be quite a wet afternoon. Then heading into Friday, not quite as much rain, but it's still going to be damp at times. This system slowly sinking its way southward, leading us to some drizzly outbreaks and potentially turning a little bit brighter across Scotland, Northern Ireland. There's still a risk of showers here, but it's going to feel quite warm, quite humid, and it's likely we'll see further outbreaks of rain, particularly on Saturday across northern areas, and still temperatures across the south in the low 20s.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with skyroof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's news channel.
News channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m, I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight...
The car stopped at the scene and a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area was arrested.
Well, why don't police reveal the ethnicity and nationality of every single criminal arrested? Plus... Surely the last thing Britain needs is more cannabis. What's Sadiq Khan been smoking? Plus... It looks like Elon Musk and President Trump have officially fallen out big time, and...
This Prime Minister has no connection with working people, no connection with what we used to call working class communities.
My dad was a tool maker. My dad worked in a factory. He was a tool maker.
Does anyone know what Keir Starmer's dad did? But anyway, rumours this evening that Labour are in disarray behind the scenes. More on that. What would you do, though, in this situation? I'll reveal exactly what's going on there. I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages with my panellists, the director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. And can you tell me what happens next here? Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Why not tell us everyone's nationality and ethnicity when they've been arrested? What are people afraid of? Next.
Very good evening to you. It's just after 10 o'clock. The top story tonight. Police say they are making significant progress as they continue questioning a man arrested after a car drove into Liverpool fans during Monday's victory parade. 7 people are still in hospital, with 79 injured in total, including a baby whose pram was thrown down the street. Officers now say the car followed an ambulance through a lifted roadblock as medics rushed to help someone having a suspected heart attack. A 53-year-old man remains in custody on suspicion of attempted murder and of drug driving. Detectives are now reviewing CCTV footage and speaking to newly identified victims as their investigation continues. UK prosecutors have revealed today that Andrew and Tristan Tate will face 21 charges when extradited to Britain, including for rape, human trafficking and actual bodily harm. The Crown Prosecution Service says the charges were authorised in 2024 following a file from Bedfordshire Police, but Romania's criminal proceedings must finish first. Andrew Tate faces 10 charges linked to 3 alleged victims, while Tristan faces 11 charges linked to 1. Both brothers deny all allegations and say they are very innocent men. Thames Water's been hit with a record £122 million fine for illegal sewage spills and breaking rules on shareholder payouts. The regulator Ofwat says the firm let down its customers and spilled raw sewage from storm overflows routinely, not just during heavy rain. Over £100 million of the fine covers sewage breaches, while just over £18 million relates to payouts, some made while the firm was in deep financial trouble. It comes as the company, drowning in nearly £20 billion of debt, continues its urgent search for fresh investment. The former head of NHS Test and Trace says fewer people would have died of COVID if the government had, quote, simply paid them to stay at home. Baroness Dido Harding told the COVID inquiry she repeatedly urged ministers to boost financial support. But the then Prime Minister Rishi Sunak blocked it at every opportunity. She said disadvantaged people were scared to get tested because they couldn't afford to isolate, and the UK spent far less than other countries on support. Private diaries also reveal ministers preferred sticks like fines over carrots like cash. And Emma Raducanu is out of the French Open after a straight sets defeat to defending champion Iga Swiatek. The British #1 was overpowered 6-1, 6-2 in just over an hour. Swiatek dominated from the start, breaking Raducanu's serve 5 times and hitting 26 winners. It's the 3rd time the Poles reached round 3 without dropping a single set. Raducanu now, though, turns her focus to Wimbledon, which starts in just over a month's time. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in an hour. Now, though, it's over to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. Why do police only release the nationality and ethnicity of someone quickly when that person is white British? Just a couple of hours after this happened in Liverpool. Merseyside police released this post, telling us in no uncertain terms that the suspect is a white British man. It took them ages to tell us anything about this lunatic. Axel Rudiker-Barner was a Welsh choir boy for quite a while, wasn't he? Police didn't have a problem releasing the full name and home addresses of people arrested for disorder after the Southport massacre, though. I mean, the press were banned from reporting as well on the crazed asylum seeker Ahmed Ali, who stabbed a pensioner to death outside asylum housing in Hartlepool as revenge for Gaza. We couldn't report on that until the trial for national security reasons. Asylum seeker Abdullah Zidi attacked a woman and child with acid in London. He was on the loose for a while, a dangerous, violent man on the run. It was ages before we got a description and then pictures of him. Police forces ignored Pakistani rape gangs for decades because they didn't want to stoke racial tensions. Today, the head of the Met Police, Sir Mark Rowley, has said that police forces, in his view, should release the nationality and ethnicity of suspects more quickly. What did our Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, have to say about it?
Well, that is a matter for the police, and the investigation is ongoing, so I think we need to leave that to them. I think today is a day really for thinking about all those impacted by this and being absolutely clear that we stand with them.
He's sitting on the fence so hard he's got splinters in his backside. If police forces and politicians are so terrified about there being a huge public backlash if we're told the truth about foreigners, asylum seekers or ethnic minorities committing horrific crimes, then maybe they should just sort out the problem with foreigners, asylum seekers and ethnic minorities committing horrific crimes. Instead, I'm trying to cover it up. Let's get thoughts from my wonderful panel this evening. Director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've got landlord and activist Adam Brooks and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Mark, should we have the nationality and ethnicity of people out there straight away?
Basically, yes, is my answer to that. I favour, and we generally have, an open justice system in this country. It's only in incredibly rare circumstances, for example, where court proceedings are behind closed doors. But I think we've got to ask the question, exactly why do we want particular pieces of information and how far would we go? So, for example, the age of a suspect is very often released. And I think part of the rationale for that is that narrows it down a lot. You know, if I thought I might have known the person and then they're revealed to be 57, but I know the person I thought it might be is only 42, you can rule it out. Ethnicity, yes. What about the area they come from? What about the person's religion, if known? Supposing that police knew that the person in custody was either Christian or Hindu or Muslim, should they release that? But what we've got to get to, and where Keir Starmer was utterly pathetic on this point, is not a matter for the police, it's a matter for politicians to set the law, is we've got old-fashioned contempt of court rules, which are totally out of date. They were set for a day in which all people only got their news from the BBC, ITV or a national newspaper. In today's fast-moving world, with a plethora of TV stations and social media, you can't reasonably stop. You can't stop information spreading. So I think we should have more faith in our juries, that even if they hear about a particular suspect or make surmises about it, we're still confident that they will ensure justice is done in the courtroom.
Yeah, I agree entirely on that. Adam, do you think that police don't reveal the ethnicity and the nationality of people sometimes because they're afraid of it kicking off?
Yeah, look, Southport was the perfect example. The lack of information created a void which people filled with their own information. And it creates distrust. I've never known such distrust in the authorities as I do now. We simply... Look, I don't trust the authorities. So I think with every major crime, we should know the ethnicity of each suspect or criminal. And then it's the same for all. You can't say we're favouring one group or another. It's got to be the same for all.
I mean, I just gave some examples there. I could have rattled off quite a few more, Nina, of times when the press has either been banned for talking about something for national security reasons and the case goes to court, and actually, really, it's quite clear they don't want you talking about a bloke who travelled through 13 different European countries before slaughtering a man outside asylum accommodation. That's why they didn't want you mentioning it. Also, things like the Abdullah Zidi case, they will have known immediately exactly what this bloke looked like. There was a massive public interest reason to tell us exactly what this guy looked like. They covered that up for quite a while. You know, but white British man, you do something wrong, they might even put your home address out there.
I think we all understand the reason why that information came out so quickly the other night. It was because, absolutely, because of the Southport riots, and because when you have a vacuum of news, people will rush to fill it. And with social media, it's so pernicious and mischievous and basically lunatic half the time that, you know, there's a poor man in Liverpool who's been named and his photograph put up on social media. He's had to move with his children.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to do with him. He was at the parade 4 miles down the road.
By the way, that was also a bit silly of anyone who thought it was him, because he would be in custody, wouldn't he? So why would he be, walking down the street?
But there are also people speculating that it wasn't a white man. That there are people saying that's wrong. You say talk about mistrust, but there's so much, you know, such a turmoil of chaos.
That's a great point, because where does that come from, though? Because it comes from, and I was going to say the perception, I'm going to change that. I'm going to say the reality of us being either ill-informed or at times deliberately misinformed, in my view, by both the establishment media and the authorities to try to cover for certain ethnic minority groups who commit crime. So
it feels that way, doesn't it? And the other worrying thing, let's hope the police have learnt their lesson after Southport. I think Adam was probably being rather too generous to them. My worry is that they will release information if the information seems to indicate that the suspect is not an Islamic terrorist. But if the indication or the surmise might be that the subject is an Islamic terrorist or an asylum seeker, they will suppress it. So they couldn't get a white man out onto the press release fast enough to try and
British as well. British,
but also
so
he came from Liverpool.
But the test is going to be the next time it isn't a white British man, but it's somebody from an ethnic minority, an asylum seeker, possibly somebody from the Islamic faith. Will we get similar information, or will there be a blackout? That's going to be the big test.
Do you think they're more worried, Adam, about not stoking racial tensions as opposed to the actual crimes?
Yeah, look, I have to say that the UK is a tinderbox at the moment. It's ready to go at any moment. People have had enough of asylum seekers coming across the channel, their taxes paying for it, their skin, a lot of people, and a lot of people are angry. So they're almost looking for an excuse a lot of the time. And obviously the police do not want to give that excuse. They know. Intelligence know. They can feel it.
Yeah, well, absolutely, which is why
it has to be level across the board. We need to know if they're black, white, or brown. It doesn't matter. We need the truth, Nina.
It's never happened before. This is the first case. I've never. Have you ever known it before, Patrick?
Where they've what? Sorry.
Where they've come out and said this is a white man.
Well, what they did after the summer disorder was that they did stop. Various different police forces did this. They started putting out people's full names, their home addresses, and then things like, well, they might blur their face. There was a famous picture of a bloke being arrested when he landed back in the country off a plane, for example. It was obvious in that he was white, and it was the home addresses there. The other dimension to that, of course, was that the implication, even if you were someone who had had 9... I'm not condoning this, by the way, but you were someone who'd had 9 pints and set fire to a wheelie bin somewhere around the Southport area, not actually setting fire to a migrant hotel, you were, because you were told, the public was told that you were arrested and nicked because of disorder, you had the word racist on your back, and they put your home address out there in a way that they're not doing and won't do for people, for Islamist terrorists.
They did this the other night for a specific reason, to try and prevent the summer disorder happening all over again. And in fact, they put it out there was a white man. Have there been black people rioting? I put that to you. No.
Well, the extraordinary thing here is also...
I mean, seriously.
You asked, has it ever been done before?
Well,
I mean, with Ruda Kabama, they made it plain that it was a Welshman.
The thing is, the implication is that you tell the public that it's a black person or a Muslim person, and then you get the riots from last year.
Well, you either have an open justice system or you don't.
You have the speculation. But then I'm not disagreeing with you on that, and I'm saying... They put it out that it was a white man, and was there a hint of a black riot? No.
No, OK, I see what you're saying.
I'm saying that there was a reason for it.
But we can't discriminate on those grounds. No. I'm with Adam. We're either going to release information about suspects prior to charge...
And by the way, I think religion is irrelevant. Religion is absolutely irrelevant.
I actually think possibly age is irrelevant, right?
Age is good.
We can have an argument about whether you release gender, religion, age, where you're from.
Age and sex.
But it needs to be consistent across all crimes. I think it just looks extraordinarily curious that the description of Ruda Cabana was a Welshman is in custody. That does not seem to be the obvious way that you would describe that man. So whatever rules we're going to have, whether you release age, where you're from, gender, ethnicity, the same for all major crimes, and the advantage for it is it stops.
So Keir Starmer sat on the fence. So today, the head of the Metropolitan Police, Mark Rowley, said that he thinks it should be released more quickly. So you've got that guy in the know saying that. Will the Prime Minister not react to it? Should he say, yeah, let's do it?
No, because the separation, I mean, you know, law and politics and...
Well, he's an international human rights lawyer and he's in politics.
Yeah, no, this is feeble. It's not it's not a police matter, this. This is a political decision. You've got to decide whether the law is that you either must or must not release certain piece of information, that you can or cannot. All of those things should be set by politicians. It shouldn't be completely at the hands of the chief cop what information is. That's a political rule. So politicians need to have a stance on it, not just saying it's a matter for the police. It's not. It's a matter for the law, and law is a matter for politicians.
And it's a matter of trust. We need to trust our authorities again.
Well, we haven't trusted the authorities for years and years and years and years. Would you trust Boris Johnson? Would you trust Liz Truss? No. I mean, you can't just say it's this government you don't trust. It's been years and years and years.
See, there are already, as we've covered multiple times on this show, already significant issues with the publication or lack of publication of crime stats, not just by ethnicity and nationality, but also of things like asylum status, etc. And they are doing everything they can to try to keep those stats out of the public domain. And you have to ask, why is that? Is it because if we knew the truth, we would be enraged? And if the answer to that is yes, I would have thought the main priority, Mark, should be stopping the problem, not trying to manage people's responses to it.
They're trying to stop the problem.
Absolutely. And look, it's you know, it's not just a matter of the public being interested. Data helps you solve public policy problems right across the board. Whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in crime, whether it's in benefits claimants or whatever. The more data you can usefully pull together, the better, because it informs a decision. And so one is led to leap to, possibly the erroneous conclusion, but it feels like the right conclusion, that there is some data that is not being put in the public domain because the authorities, the great and the good, fear what conclusions we would draw from.
Because for the sake of multiculturalism and diversity a lot of the time, and because a lot of the time as well, it would make people realise that the policies that they'd been pushing or the attitudes that they'd been pushing had actually have caused serious damage.
But Adam's talking about a tinderbox. If that information had not come out the other night, we wouldn't possibly looking at Southport riots again, surely, because it would just have fermented. It would have exacerbated...
That's good. I'm glad they released... Right, I want to make one thing very clear. I am glad they released the ethnicity and nationality and age of this guy. What I'm saying is I think you should just do it across the board. Correct. Just do it. That's all it is. I'm glad. More information, the better. Get it out there. The annoyance for me is when you can see that they're holding stuff back deliberately on other things. And I actually find that quite... Because then it comes out in the end, and then we all just go, right, you were covering it up, so they might as well get it out. Anyway, thank you very much. A lively start. Good stuff. There's 2 weeks left, and a massive gear change, quite literally, actually, when you realise what we're giving away. There's 2 weeks left to get your entry into our biggest Great British giveaway. It's a brand new motorhome and £5 in cash. Here's how you can win.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of 4, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up, I've got all of tomorrow's newspapers' front pages, and there's some breaking news on the front of the Daily Telegraph. British officials could be barred from entering the US in a battle over free speech. Big stuff there. I'll give you all the details. Oh, what's going on here? You will not be able to guess, let me tell you that much. But, yeah, trouble's brewing in the White House. Please tell me it isn't true. The Trump-Musk bromance is on the rocks, apparently. I'll go live to America for all the latest in just a few minutes.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
What do you think? Is there personal agendas being pushed in schools by maybe individual teachers, or perhaps it's the ethos of the entire school?
I don't think it's not widespread, but there are isolated incidents where, you know, you hear about teachers who have put too much of their own personal opinion into things. And it's actually in the Teaching Standards of England, Part 2, about your professional and personal conduct as well, and also the prevent duty. So I think it's not widespread, but we do hear of cases where teachers have been struck off for this behaviour.
So are there quite strict guidelines then, Christine, on what teachers can bring to the classroom? And would you know if a teacher is stepping outside of those boundaries?
Yeah, 100%. You, as a head teacher and as a senior management team, you need to look at the curriculum, what's being taught, and that how it's delivered within the classroom as well, because there are strict standards. And if a school is failing in that way, then it's not good at all.
Fahima, what might the issues be with this, do you think, from your point of view? If a teacher brings their own ideas about identity politics, let's say, or actually just politics in general, into the classroom, should they be allowed to do that?
To be honest, I don't think that teachers actually will bring their own politics into it. I think it's just their style of teaching, regardless of their opinion. I don't think they can rewrite history. It's only about expanding it. And good teaching presents multiple perspectives, especially in a diverse country like Britain. And it doesn't mean it's erasing sort of any sort of content or traditional. It just means that we're just, you know, adding different voices and critical thinking. That's the whole idea about education, is critical thinking and not blind agreement.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Very shortly, I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, some sensational stuff there from the Daily Telegraph. But could the world's most famous bromance be on the rocks? So Donald Trump and Elon Musk now seem to be on shaky ground. Why, you ask? Well, the tech billionaire has seemingly lashed out at the White House, accusing Trump of undermining him and using Doge as a scapegoat. This comes after the president unveiled a staggering $3.8 trillion spending bill. The bill is expected to add significantly to the national debt, which already stands at a staggering $36 trillion, a figure that Musk's Department of Government Efficiency was specifically created to reduce. So, look, is this the moment that Musk and President Trump part ways? I'm joined now by actor and TV personality Antonio Sabato Jr. Tell me it's not true. The world's most famous bromance. Go on.
It's not true, my friend. They're all liars. That's what they do best. Listen, these two people are billionaires, very smart folks, and they're taking care of a lot of problems that were created in the last 4 years by an incompetent president. And there's a lot of stuff to take care of in a very short amount of time. So there's a lot of pressure. It's just like any other relationship, right? There's money. They're taking care of a country and the world all at one time. So this is all fake media stuff. The media, the entertainment, they all hate this man, the president. But we, myself, American citizen, we love him and we appreciate him. So if you want to know the truth, just ask me and I'll tell you, because this fake media will keep lying as long as they can.
Yeah, I mean, Elon Musk has said he's disappointed, though, with the big, beautiful tax bill, hasn't he? So, I mean, he's not entirely happy.
It's not going to be perfect, my friend. It's always going to be an up and down battle here. I mean, there were some serious issues and problems that were created in the last 4 years, and even before that. And this president is doing the best he can, working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Elon Musk is working for free. He's got his whole staff there in Washington, D.C. These people are working for the first time for the American people. We haven't had anybody work for us for a long time. So now it's actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it would be absolutely catastrophic. I would argue for both of them if they fell out, really, because Elon Musk put a huge amount of weight behind President Trump. President Trump brought Elon Musk in. I mean, Elon Musk was basically hosting cabinet meetings at one point. He had his kid in the White House, as we saw there. Yeah. I mean, if they've actually fallen out and that fallout goes public, it's very bad for both of them.
No, listen, we love our country. They love our country, and they're working as hard as they can. And also remember, the other side of the political world, who are very vicious and evil, the Democrats, they're against everything that these two people and the entire administration is trying to do on a daily basis. So we're dealing with them. But as far as them and as far as what they've done so far, it's astronomically brilliant. I mean, this is a short amount of time. It's not even the summer right now. We live a lot better than we ever did in the last 4 years. Our gas prices, our economy is booming again. At least it's going to a place that we haven't seen in a long time. So that is, and we're trying to stop wars around the world. There's a lot of stuff to take care of on a daily basis.
I mean, Elon Musk has specifically said that Trump's latest bill, which, by the way, in case you're wondering, includes multi-trillion-dollar tax breaks and a pledge to increase defence spending, which, hey, as far as I'm concerned, sounds quite a good thing. But Elon Musk says, quote, it undermines the work he did at Doge. It doesn't sound like he's that happy with your man.
Well, he didn't really say that. So until he actually has a press conference and he says those things, he hasn't said it. So I don't believe anything the press is saying whatsoever. I know what's going on because I know people in D.C. and things are they're moving very slowly because there's a lot of stuff to take care of. And I don't think they're going to split. I think they're going to be together, and this is a wonderful relationship. Just like any marriage, you're not going to get along on every single thing. But the ultimate goal here is to help the American people to make sure that America is back on top. And that's what we're doing every day. That's what they're doing every day. And we're hoping it's going to be better.
Just quickly, while I've got you, and look, you might not have seen this specific story because it's kind of just developing over here in Britain, so fair enough if you haven't. But it looks as though British diplomats could be banned from entering the United States by the Trump administration because of concerns about freedom of speech over here in Britain, because of things like social media censorship, etc. What's the view from where you are in America now about the state of Britain?
Well, I feel sorry for you guys. I love Britain. I used to go there all the time, but none of my family members are taking any trips over there. It's not looking good for you guys. It's because your political leaders are just not very good. They're awful. They're the worst, and they want to destroy your country. And I feel bad because I love that place. It's just so much history. I love going. I used to go there all the time and spend a lot of time in England, but we don't go there anymore. And I hope that changes. I hope you guys wake up and elect better people to run your country, because it's a beautiful nation and it deserves the best. And you should have freedom of speech in that place. You should have freedom of speech to say whatever you want, just like we have here. But it's not that it's not working very well for you guys lately. And I hope and I pray that it changes very soon.
Yeah, well, Antonio, thank you very much. A real pleasure. Antonio Sabato Jr., there, actor, TV personality, stateside for us. Well, good news if the Musk-Trump rift isn't really a thing. What I will say as well, just before we get to the papers now, is that, you know, I must say, whilst I have a huge amount of respect for America, it's a fabulous country, we've got this wonderful shared history and special relationship, you know, a bit of it really winds me up when I hear Americans saying bad stuff about Britain. But then I also think, unfortunately, quite a lot of the stuff they're saying at the moment is true. So, you know, maybe we need to deal with that. Coming up, the very first tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Yeah, you heard a bit of it then. British officials could be barred from the US in a big battle over free speech. What's going on? I'll tell you next.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Whilst eastern parts of Europe are having some further heavy rain causing some issues here, it's a different story further west. A largely settled picture, a few showery bursts perhaps affecting the Canaries, but likely to avoid most of these. Also largely dry on Thursday across much of Spain and Portugal. A large chunk of Italy having a fine picture, but still some showery rain towards the east, and then a very wet story across more eastern parts, across Greece and Turkey, for example. See you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After a day of sunshine and showers, it'll eventually turn dry into this evening. Only for a time though, a return of some wet and windy weather from the west, leading us into an unsettled day tomorrow. But for the time being, a ridge of high pressure largely easing away any showers, but outbreaks of rain soon moving their way into Northern Ireland for the first part of the evening and eventually into western parts of England and Scotland, and turning quite heavy at times, particularly across western areas, and quite blustery too, particularly around exposed coasts of Scotland. But even elsewhere across England and Wales, it's going to be quite a damp and dank start to the day. But with the cloud outbreaks of rain, that does mean it's going to keep temperatures up, so it should be still quite a mild start to the day. And I'm afraid the outbreaks of rain are set to continue for much of the day as well, particularly across Scotland, where still it's going to turn heavy and still quite blustery at times through the course of the morning. Fairly similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, quite a wet start and some quite low cloud, leading to quite a misty, murky start, and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales, particularly western parts of Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall, some damp areas to start here. And it's set to continue through much of the day, still some quite heavy and blustery outbreaks, particularly across Scotland. Those central areas, parts of the southeast, any rain should eventually ease away, but it's still likely to remain quite cloudy. But it's still going to be fairly warm, highs just about reaching the low 20s across the southeast, and it's still not going to be particularly cold either across the north, though obviously it's going to be quite a wet afternoon. Then heading into Friday, not quite as much rain, but it's still going to be damp at times. This system slowly sinking its way southward, leading us to some drizzly outbreaks and potentially turning a little bit brighter across Scotland, Northern Ireland, though still a risk of showers here. But it's going to feel quite warm, quite humid, and it's likely we'll see further outbreaks of rain, particularly on Saturday across northern areas, and still temperatures across the south in the low 20s.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No, because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. It's the first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Now let's go to the Independent. Well, we challenged Trump on foreign aid cuts and he blames the EU. So, here we go. Speaking aboard Air Force One for a new independent TV documentary showing devastating impact of US aid cuts on HIV patients, the president claims, we've spent billions. Where is France? Where is Germany? It's quite an interesting front page, though. We might return to that. The Daily Express. Heroes' trips of tribute are safe forever. Funding secured, they say, in a Daily Express exclusive. Readers' generosity helps guarantee our veterans can honour the fallen. So it looks as though some of those trips that the government was accused, anyway, of refusing to help pay for are now been secured through the generosity of Daily Express readers. There is, of course, a wonderful chap called Johnny Gallagher who's doing a lot of work before, a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago, who's helped to raise money as well. The Daily Telegraph. Army of hackers to take on Putin. £1 billion investment will give military online firepower against hostile states. PM Farage would tank the economy like Truss. There's a story, of course, of Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron kissing, or at least she's kissing him on the cheeks, better than slapping him in the face, I suppose. The one that I'm quite keen on here at the bottom is that the US might bar UK officials in a free speech dispute. British officials face being banned from the United States if they are found to have breached the free speech rights of American citizens. So this is according to Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State. The United States are turning the screw on Britain over free speech. What do you make of that?
I welcome it, and I think they're perfectly entitled to. We sometimes have the view that we can never intervene in the politics of another country, but of course the UK does it all the time. British politicians and the British public are giving a running commentary on the behaviour of Israel, for example. So I think now that the difficulty, we're only basing this on a news in brief on the front page of the Telegraph, is let's imagine this sort of scenario that there's, I don't know, an American citizen who's pro-life praying outside a British abortion clinic. Yep. How would the American authorities determine who precisely it was that had breached her freedom of speech? Is it the police officer who arrests them? Is it the judge who convicts her? Is it the politicians who brought in the law? So Ofcom is mentioned here. Does that mean if they feel that something shouldn't have been censored, it's the head of Ofcom who can't go into America? Or all
I
Ofcom
wonder if they'll go bigger.
I
wonder if they'll go bigger and they'll do things like they'll try to expel Peter Mandelson or something.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Isn't this hypocrisy on the part of America? I mean, what they're doing now is they're censoring speech themselves.
Which...
They are.
What speech are they censoring?
Well, I mean, you know, students who are protesting about Gaza, they're being turfed out.
Well, they got a First Amendment. You got First Amendment
a right to free speech, but that's not being upheld.
Right. Well, that's for the Supreme Court to uphold. Yeah.
Well, yes, but then Trump overrules that.
Well, you can't. The Supreme Court has the final say.
This is more about the statement. We used to be admired around the world for our democracy. Now we're being called out by an ally. Yeah. This is a big thing.
I debate ally. I
think one thing that is becoming increasingly hard to deny is that whilst Britain was once a big destination for high-class people to want to flock to, whether it was for lucrative business or to educate your kids or whatever else, I think increasingly now people are thinking that we have a massive problem with Islamism, that we have a massive problem with radicalisation, that we have a massive problem with crime, and that, frankly, we are a country in decline. That is, I think, one of the things that GBNews is trying to do, is try to do our best to both point that out but also reverse that and to try to stand up and fight against that. And I know a lot of our viewers and listeners want to do that every day in their lives as well. But you look at things like this, and I mean, Dominic Cummings, actually, off of Boris Johnson fame, was quoted as saying that people in the UAE are now not wanting to send their kids to Britain to be educated because they'll come back an Islamist.
Yeah, I agree that some of the core planks that made the UK a very desirable destination for successful people from across the world, a good number of those planks are starting to look a bit rocky. Yeah. I think our education system is nothing like as robust as it was some years ago. We are, especially at university, seem to be more concerned about not causing offence than we are about having robust debates from people across the spectrum. the rule of law and the fact that it would always be applied fairly, that was a very good reason for companies to relocate here. You know, very, very low levels of corruption in Britain, and that you could trust a court and you could trust a regulator. That seems to have withered away. Solidarity, you know, any sense of a kind of social capital holding society together, that seems to have withered away. Economic growth on the floor. So, you know, I don't know what people predict, you know, how much richer they think we're going to be in 10 years' time. Not very. So all of the, I mean, we've still got the English language, thank God, which is still quite a magnet, and that will be with us forever. But all of those things which were a really strong magnet, I now suspect are a considerably less strong magnet.
Were destroyed by 14 years of the Tory government, who destroyed our prison system, destroyed our justice system, our basic society. Nothing.
Too many immigrants.
We're not
was the problem.
We're not denying that, but what Labour have done in 10 months,
double down on it.
It's doubled down.
The thing is, you can't just wipe that out. You cannot just wipe it out.
Sorry about this. I just want to bring something to your attention. I've just been told this. So in a couple of minutes' time, we're going to bring this to you. But apparently, there are fresh details about the Liverpool car incident suspect on the front of the Daily Mail. So when we bring you the next round of newspapers, the Daily Mail's in that. Apparently, this is fresh details about the Liverpool car incident suspect. So I'll reveal that to you shortly. Just because we've got a couple of minutes left in this segment, there's a story here that people might have missed, which I'm quite keen. It's also on the front of the Telegraph. It's Heathrow chief slept through meltdown. Remember when that generator blew up pretty much outside Heathrow Airport? Flights cancelled, disaster, you name it. Now, the chief there of Heathrow, who's on a whopping 3.2 million quid he earned last year, 3.2 million quid. Anyway, the boss of Heathrow slept through the first 7 hours of the airport shutdown because his phone was switched to silent mode. Now, I don't know how people feel about this, because a man is entitled to a good night's sleep, and he didn't know it was going to blow up, and so conceivably he went to bed, he put his phone on silent. This incident happened at what? About 2 in the morning?
Yes, I mean...
The other side of it is that
You're being far too generous, Patrick.
Okay, good,
the bit here says that he had placed his telephone on his bedside table, but the device had, quote, gone into silent mode. That's a bit strange. And in any event, if you're paid that sort of money, I mean, of course you're entitled to a good night's sleep on most nights, but when a disaster hits Heathrow like that, I'm a bit surprised that there weren't people phoning his landline, knocking on his door, you know, etc., etc. This was such a... the idea this was all hinging on whether his phone had died.
He has to be available.
But also, by the way, I say that with my eyes wide open about, you know, certain people who work in this place who have to be available 24/7.
Yeah, quite.
They have to be, and they get woken up with all sorts 24/7. You know, you have to be, and that's just part of the job. That is part of the job.
If you're paid 3.2 million, that is pretty good compensation for not necessarily getting a decent night's
I wouldn't sleep for
night.
a week for 3.2 million. I'd be clinging on there, like not shutting my eyes.
Sleep for a year.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, OK, well, look, when we come back, like I said, fresh details about the Liverpool car incident suspect on the front page of the Daily Mail. And there's still plenty of time to be part of my live studio audience show on a Friday night. Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I think that things have gone a little bit too far in this country. The fact of the matter is that any well-trained journalist does know that free speech does have to exist in a certain environment where you can't be defamatory and you can't incite racial hatred or violence. We know that because we're trained to recognise it. But what's happened here in this country is we've chucked the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
What's happened now is that everyone is starting to react to fairly, not innocent phrases exactly, but we're starting to become really obsessive about things that don't actually matter and people should be allowed to speak about. Lucy Connolly's she's a case in point. If you think that the actual Prime Minister now is leading the charge, along with Shabnam Mahmood, to actually shorten jail sentences or have no jail sentences for some criminals, and yet Lucy Connolly is in prison for 31 months and loses her appeal, you've got to start asking yourself, what is going on here?
And also, can I just add, Paul Richards, Keir Starmer asked about Lucy Connolly. He says, oh, sorry, I'm not across the case. Come on, pull the other leg. By the way, I don't want to just talk about Lucy Connolly. This is free speech in Britain. Free speech, in my book, does not exist in Britain.
Well, technically, you're right, of course, because we can't just say whatever we like. We can't walk into a crowded theatre and shout fire, right? And I can't say so-and-so's a paedophile or so-and-so's a terrorist without, you know, there being some evidence for that. We can't just say whatever we like anywhere we like. We have boundaries and rules. And I would say to the Americans coming over and lecturing us on how to run the place, you know, they display total ignorance of our system so often. And if you vox pop American citizens, they don't know where England is. They think our Prime Minister is King Charles.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nigel is back.
Good evening.
Unfiltered.
Are these proposals bold enough?
Uncompromising.
Will it bring growth?
Unmissable.
We as a country are brilliant.
Nigel Farage returns this Tuesday from 7 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. So, the remainder of tomorrow's front page is including some interesting detail on the front of the Daily Mail. We'll start with the Metro. £123 million down the drain. They go, this is Thames Water being fined, basically, for being a bit rubbish. The I paper, BBC letting off over 75s who failed to pay their TV licence fee. Good. Absolutely.
Excellent.
Good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Doing it for the under 75.
Humane, compassionate.
Fantastic. The BBC is operating an unofficial amnesty for pensioners over the age of 75 who refuse to pay the annual charge. Fantastic for a lot of pensioners. It's the only, the licence fee and the TV is the only company that they have every day. They shouldn't be charged for it.
Agreed.
Anyway, The Guardian, anger over poor housing could spark social tension. Watch, the Housing Ombudsman has warned that simmering anger at poor housing conditions could boil over. Well, I would suggest that maybe The Guardian should look at itself in the mirror there and think about, for quite a while, people have been complaining about who is living in some of this housing and the quality of it. But anyway, the Daily Mail, here we go. We'll zone in on this one. Liverpool suspect is a company director. So this is the Daily Mail choosing to put what they say is additional information about this suspect in the Liverpool parade disaster, really. They go with, the man who drove into fans at Liverpool's victory parade is a middle-class father who runs his own business. I'm going to add the word allegedly onto this. The 53-year-old, they say, is married with 3 teenage children. Neighbours of the company director, who lives in a smart £300,000 4-bedroom detached property on a neat estate, described him as a family man with well-behaved children who must have just panicked in the moment. Now, the reason why we'll just have a very quick discussion on this is in light of the conversation we had at 10 p.m. about police releasing information. This isn't police releasing this information. This is the Daily Mail. We've got no way of verifying it here, of course. The Mail have gone with it. Is it right that they've put this out?
I think not. This is information. I mean, at this point, they know who he is, you might as well name him, because people in the area or on his street or whatever will probably now be able to identify him.
And it risks
if you're living
people being wrongly named.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you're now living next to somebody who's a 53-year-old man in Liverpool with 3 kids, and you reckon their property's worth about £300,000, you're going to leap to a particular conclusion. So this seems to get as close to naming him without naming him, and I think that's pretty.
Is it fair though? This guy has not been charged with anything yet.
Correct.
We don't know what's going on, and I get that we've all seen the videos and stuff, but this is. I don't know. Is it right?
I feel this is far too much. What is the public interest in me, knowing that he's got a company, 3 kids? I don't know, and I question if this was an Islamist terrorist or an ethnic minority or an asylum seeker. Would we know the ins and outs of their life?
It's a very odd headline, isn't it?
Just to round this up before we move on to another paper, Nina, look, the Daily Mail's front page, Liverpool suspect is a company director. Do we need to know that?
The thing is, the Daily Mail wants to tell us because they want to sell newspapers. That's basically it. The Daily Mail is obsessed with class, so the fact that it's a detached house, that he's a company director, it's that sort of... That's what they're flogging. And there's such a hunger and thirst in a vacuum where there isn't much knowledge. Okay. Then they're going to fill it. The Daily Mail are going to stick their necks out and do it.
I can see. Don't get me wrong. I can see. I'm not having a go at the Daily Mail. I think it's an interesting.
Why not?
I think it's because I don't necessarily think they've done anything wrong. I think it's an interesting.
Pushing the envelope.
It's a discussion to be had about front pages, right?
That's a needless headline.
But yeah, okay, yeah. But yeah, look, emphasise again. Look, the guy's not been charged with anything. Or we don't even know who he is. All of this stuff. So right, let's round us off with the Times. Doctors told strikes will harm efforts to heal the NHS. Going to be quite brief on this. I read a story earlier on now, which was polling data, because junior doctors are apparently thinking of going on strike again. They want something like a 30% pay rise. And apparently now the public have turned. The opinion polls are against them.
That's right. For the first time in God only knows how long, the public will not be supportive of a strike by junior doctors. So Wes Streeting, who's also at the moment taking a tough line on this, good luck to him, is saying that this would be damaging for the NHS. I think we've got to find a way of tying doctors, nurses, managers' salaries in the NHS to the performance of the NHS. Okay. You'll need to have a stake in it. And if the NHS performance improves by 29%, you can get a 29% pay rise.
No support for the junior doctors' potential strike?
None at all. They cost lives. Strikes from doctors and nurses cost lives. And Labour said they would end this. And they haven't.
Well, they have so far. They have so far. It has not striking yet. 39%, only 39% of the public support it. But the thing is, I would just like to say, can we just call them resident doctors rather than junior doctors? Because when we talk about junior doctors, they sound like they're just qualified or not qualified yet, and they couldn't possibly do more than stick a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
I'm not against saying what change their job title.
They self-identify as junior doctors.
Yeah, they self-identify as resident doctors.
Fair enough. OK, all right, well, look, hey, those are your front pages, but here to probably do a much better job of what I've just done there and give you a bit more detail and flesh it out on not just the front page but some stuff from inside the books as well, is the wonderful headliners presented this evening by Steve and Alan. Steve, great to see you. What's coming up on the show?
Oh, it's going to be a good one. Yeah, we'll be looking at the front pages, the new version of the war, hackers versus Putin. We'll see which one's going to win. Inside the papers, we find out that we don't have enough police officers. Surprise. We do have enough doctors, but they might be on strike. Surprise. And there's a lovely story in there as well saying the secrets to good mental health is the love of a good mother. I don't know if it has to be your own. We'll find out by the end of the show.
All right, Steve, thank you very, very much. Steve and Alan there will be joined by the Headliners gang. Please do tune in for the next hour. It's the best way to round off your evening. Headliners with all of the info. Right, thank you very much, my wonderful panel. Tremendous to have you on the show. And do come and see me on a Friday night. I hope to see as many of you here as possible for my live Studio Friday night audience show. Easy for me to say on that note. It's probably time for me to call it an evening. I will see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Thank you, everyone who's been watching and listening. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After a day of sunshine and showers, it'll eventually turn dry into this evening. Only for a time, though, a return of some wet and windy weather from the west, leading us into an unsettled day tomorrow. But for the time being, a ridge of high pressure largely easing away any showers, but outbreaks of rain soon moving their way into Northern Ireland for the first part of the evening and eventually into western parts of England and Scotland, and turning quite heavy at times, particularly across western areas, and quite blustery too, particularly around exposed coasts of Scotland. But even elsewhere across England and Wales, it's going to be quite a damp and dank start to the day. But with the cloud outbreaks of rain, that does mean it's going to keep temperatures up, so it should be still quite a mild start to the day. And I'm afraid the outbreaks of rain are set to continue for much of the day as well, particularly across Scotland, where still it's going to turn heavy and still quite blustery at times through the course of the morning. Fairly similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, quite a wet start and some quite low cloud, leading to quite a misty, murky start, and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales, particularly western parts of Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall, some damp areas to start here. And it's set to continue through much of the day, still some quite heavy and blustery outbreaks, particularly across Scotland. Those central areas, parts of the southeast, any rain should eventually ease away, but it's still likely to remain quite cloudy. But it's still going to be fairly warm, highs just about reaching the low 20s across the southeast, and it's still not going to be particularly cold either across the north, though obviously it's going to be quite a wet afternoon. Then heading into Friday, not quite as much rain, but it's still going to be damp at times. This system slowly sinking its way southward, leading us to some drizzly outbreaks and potentially turning a little bit brighter across Scotland, Northern Ireland. There's still a risk of showers here, but it's going to feel quite warm, quite humid, and it's likely we'll see further outbreaks of rain, particularly on Saturday across northern areas, and still temperatures across the south in the low 20s.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It has plenty of room for your family of 4, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out about police taking our jobs by talking about the ethnicity of suspects. Doctors demand so much in their industrial action threat they can probably tell if your prostate's okay. And the trans netball player who's had their balls confiscated. I'm Stephen Allen, and tonight I'm joined by Cressida Wetton and Josh Howie to take you through Thursday's top stories. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's get tonight's headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you. The top story at 11 o'clock. Police say they are making significant progress as they continue questioning a man arrested after a car drove into Liverpool fans during Monday's victory parade. 7 people are still in hospital tonight, with 79 injured in total, including a baby whose pram was thrown down the street. Officers now say the car followed an ambulance through a lifted roadblock as medics rushed to help someone having a suspected heart attack. A 53-year-old man remains in custody on suspicion of attempted murder and drug driving. Detectives are reviewing CCTV and speaking to newly identified victims as the investigation moves forward. UK prosecutors have revealed that influencers Andrew and Tristan Tate will face 21 charges when extradited to Britain, including for rape, human trafficking and actual bodily harm. The Crown Prosecution Service says the charges were authorised in 2024 following a file from Bedfordshire Police. But Romania's criminal proceedings must finish first. Andrew Tate faces 10 charges linked to 3 alleged victims, while Tristan faces 11 charges linked to 1. Both brothers deny all allegations and say they are innocent men. Russia says it is ready to put peace deals on the table, offering Ukraine a settlement during talks in Istanbul on the 2nd of June. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov claims the document lays out Moscow's full position on ending the war and tackling its so-called root causes. The Russian delegation